Hello YouTube, Kevin here for Superpower Broadcasting. In this video, I'm going to be discussing a meme that I noticed making the rounds. It's been around for a while, but I saw it again come up recently in a Takey Tulsi Gabbard group. It was posted in response to a hawkish statement that I had made when I was sharing one of my hawk memes, and it's a picture. In the top of the image, it shows some brutalist high-rise buildings that are about 20 stories tall with some lights on and stuff against the night. And in the bottom picture, it shows basically a war zone, rebel everywhere and whatnot. And it says in the top text, Libya with Gaddafi, and then Libya after Gaddafi. And the point of it is basically to say, the West messes everything up, and it's a disgrace to be a hawk or a neocon and whatnot. That is such a stupid meme, because I know that the implication of the meme is this idea that under the dictator there was civilization, and after the dictator there's a lack of civilization. That's the point of the meme. But it's so stupid, because think about what that's actually saying. It's saying, because the buildings aren't even that special, right? It's not like it looks like Las Vegas or something. It's just some towers. And I believe those towers are actually still standing. They may not have access to electricity or something. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but the thing is, they're nothing special. The amount of suffering that was inflicted upon the Libyan people for 40 years under Gaddafi, it's okay. It's all cool, super cool, because they got those towers. They got like four brutalist 15, 20-story high-rise buildings. So yeah. So the dictator's great. The great leader system's wonderful. It's great that all those people went to the prison camps. It's great that nobody had any freedom for 4 decades, because look at what they have. They have four like high-rise type buildings that aren't even really that tall, that are kind of ugly actually, and they're pretty brutalist. They kind of look like something out of the Soviet Union, which isn't surprising because Gaddafi was a freaking socialist. The whole Arab Jamahiriya was just basically another form of socialist Baathism, basically. What a joke. What an absolute joke. And I mean, this is the same thing. It's saying like, oh, look at how great Stalin is. He has a black luxury car back in the 40s. So the system must be cool. It must be awesome. Or it's the same as when Tanky Tulsi Gabbard went over to Damascus, and she got to hang out with Assad in his cool palace. And she was so taken aback at how swaggy and polished it was and everything. And then she went out back to America after being wined and dined by the establishment in Syria. And now she talks about how great and wonderful the dictator of Syria is. It's like, oh look, no, they have a golden palace. They're super cool. We must defend and sing praise of the dictator over there. It would be like going over to the interview. If you guys have seen the interview, it would be like going over to Pyongyang and seeing like, oh no, it isn't actually a bad country like they show in the Western media, because they actually have a TV screen, like a digital TV screen in the capital that shows like big television that shows the people, the speeches of the great leaders and the military parades of the great leaders and the rallies of the great leaders. And look at everybody. They all sing praise. They're all super happy. They all agree with what Kim says. So it must be a harmonious system. It must be great. The people must be happy. It is entirely stupid. It is the height of gullibility to fall for this. If you're somebody who uncritically has shared or buys into or would fall for this sort of thing, you need to seriously check your values, and you need to step out of the groupthink bubble, because I know that we're living in this era of cringe where everybody's an isolationist, and the only people who aren't are these evil elites in DC, and they don't understand the people, and all the people love the dictators, and all the people love the socialists out there. I understand that there are a lot of people out there in the right wing and the left wing that live in these bubbles where Statements such as, Assad's a good guy, he protects Christian minorities, make all the sense in the world, where all it takes is asking a simple question. Oh, really? Did he protect the 600,000 Syrians that he butchered? Well, you get to see the moral duplicity. You get to see the degenerate disregard for humanity revealed. Now, a lot of the people that share these, a lot of the people that buy into these things, aren't actually bad people by any means. They aren't malicious by any means. They think that they are, fighting a bunch of warmongers or whatever by sharing this stuff. Guess who was a warmonger? Assad, Putin, these people that do wars all the time, Hamas, that bomb Israel all the time. Guess who was not the most peaceful person? Gaddafi. Sure, he didn't really invade countries or whatnot. Guess what he did? He did state-sponsored terrorism. He blew up airplanes. So yeah, you can share these memes and think it's super cool. It's so cool how Gaddafi built these high-rises and enslaved the country for 40 years. That's so cool. That's so awesome. And, he funded terrorists, but it's okay because he was anti-imperialist. Guess what? Do you use air travel? Do you travel by car? Do you travel by railway? Because what happens if some other dictator, like Assad, that you probably also defend, what happens if they fund states? What if they do state-sponsored terrorism? What if all of a sudden you're just driving down the highway and you cross a bridge and that bridge blows up because Assad had funded some sleeper cell group in America that planted a bomb in the bridge, and they did it for the glory of the great leader Assad. Well, now all of a sudden you're a victim of that. And instead of people being outraged or whatever, because people will be outraged, but you'll see the memes defending Assad still. And people that you used to go to school with or whatever, or people that you could have known in another life and hung out with, will be sharing memes defending Assad as an anti-imperialist and showing what Damascus used to look like when they were peaceful under his absolute rule and how much of a mess it is now. Yeah, sure, you'll be being eaten by earthworms underground. That will be the case. But life will go on, and these isocucks will keep isocucking, just as you did in your life. So do you want that to be your legacy? Do you want to die and have the testament of your life be that you served and you bootlicked for and you gave your soul in the interest of one man so that he could have his polished swag bends, his yacht, his palace? Because guess what? You're not going to get to party with Assad if you share memes for him. He's going to see you as a peasant. He's going to see you as human filth. He hates humanity. He's butchered 600,000 people. He's not letting them in his mansion. Because guess what? Unless you're the great leader, you're a peasant. So you're going to share memes. You're going to share memes for these despots. What a joke. So I bring up this meme, right? I bring it up. It's just one example. You guys, you've seen the memes. You've seen these. You've seen all the propaganda that's out there, especially post 2015, 2016. You've seen, the era of cringe. You know it. You can say that I'm basically the male Rachel Maddow or whatever, that I'm like this conspiracy theorist or whatever. You can call me a Russophobe. That's a good one. That's a good one. A lot of people will call me a Russophobe, right? Which is funny because I actually listen to Russian music. I watch Russian films. I have an interest in Russian culture. I like the Russian people. I want them to have a free country. I want them to not get the crap beaten out of them if they happen to be feminists or if they happen to be homosexual. So I'm an actual Russophobe, right? I want Russia to have the same liberty as we do in Canada and America, right? In my view, that's what makes you a Russophobe. Or, sorry, a Russophile, I should say. Yeah, that's a correction there. So I get called a Russophobe, but I'm actually in that sense a Russophile. I'm interested in the culture and everything. But it's a great thing to say, oh, well, you hate the people because you hate the dictator. Great conflation of a country with the supreme leader. Like, so for example, you see this all the time. Oh, the North Koreans are bad or whatever. It's like, no, the North Koreans aren't bad. The Kim dynasty is bad. We need to distinguish between the elites of a country, the establishment of a country, and the country itself. Because all these progressives, all these libertarians, all these people They all have these issues about, oh, the president doesn't represent me or whatever, or, we're run by the Jews or the military industrial complex, but the actual hard-working blue-collar American is good. These people, they understand the logic within America. Now, don't get me wrong, that's gross anti-Semitic BS, right? But they're able to draw that distinction at home. But then they see China and they hear Xi Jinping say that the Chinese people are too stupid to handle democracy. And they agree with that. And they think that all the Chinese people sing praise. And they think that all the North Korean people sing praise of Kim. I got news. They're forced to do that. If you think that the North Korean people and the establishment of North Korea are the same, you're an idiot. And they're only able to think in these bubble-like mindsets at home. They have this mindset where nothing matters unless it happens to them. Glenn Greenwald's like this. Rand Paul's like this, where they will defend dictators. The most brutal dictators in the world, as Glenn Greenwald does when he defends Putin and Assad. But then when Bolsonaro tries cracking down on gay marriage or whatever in Brazil, gay freedom in Brazil, now all of a sudden you cross the line. You can't do that there because I live in Brazil. So, and I'm gay. So that's a problem. That's what Glenn Greenwald's like. He has no problem with Russian gays getting tortured and put in prison camps and executed. That's cool because Putin's anti-imperialist. But if you do it at home, if you do it in his backyard, well, now all of a sudden you're an evil homophobe or whatever. It is morally duplicitous. It is disgraceful. It's funny if it didn't have real world consequences. Just the logic, the lack of logic that's present here is just unbelievably two-faced and hypocritical, egregious. You see it with the environmentalists too, where they're perfectly fine to call out the U.S. and Canadian government for pipelines, but then their darling Kremlin shield Jill Stein will go over and have dinner with Putin. Putin produces more oil a day than any other leader in the world. Russia produces about 10.2 billion barrels, I think it is. It's more than Saudi Arabia. But the problem is America. The problem is Canada. They don't care about the environment. Russia's the good guys. They're anti-imperialists. So all this pretense of progressivism, environmentalism, or libertarianism, gun rights, etc. Guess who doesn't have any gun rights? The Syrian people. But a lot of those people that are Second Amendment nutters, they see Assad as the good leader, that he's an alpha or whatever. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. I've talked about this. My friend Reese of Nightmare Fuel, he calls this out all the time. He does great work, and he gets a lot of flack for it because he points out contradictions that are simultaneously so obvious and yet so sparsely called out. These things, the cognitive dissonance, while it is sheer and while it is massive, if it's never called out and never pointed out, it is able to go dormant. It is able to sustain itself. The only way that we change the culture and we change people's opinions about this is by getting them to realize the inherent contradictions of their hypocritical moral duplicity. Because once you are aware of these contradictions, you can only go in one of two directions. You can either say, I'm against tyranny anywhere in the world then. I'm going to be a libertarian and I'm going to be consistent about it. And then you become a hawk and you want to fight Assad and Iran and Putin just as much as the neocons and the liberal hawks do. Or you say, you know what, well, that was cute talking points. I actually just want to own the SJWs. So I want fascism here too. And that is as well a morally consistent opinion. Because now you're saying they have a dictator over there, we should have a dictator over here. That is a morally consistent thing to do. So if these libertarians would just admit that they want a strongman dictator here too, and give up the whole pretense about Ayn Rand and libertarianism and low taxes or whatever, and just admit that it's actually just about owning the SJWs or owning the feminists or whatever, then we can have a respectful and non-duplicitous debate. We can have a genuine debate. We can have a genuine argument. Like, don't get me wrong, those ideas are disgusting, but they're morally consistent. Here's when we're not going to have a debate. If you say, oh, I'm a libertarian, I believe in absolute freedom, I will oppose the government in America or Canada, like Maxime Bernier says, at anything that they do. You know, supply management in Canada, it's such an egregious disaster. Or if you're in America, you say, you know, it's such a disaster that we're considering raising taxes 1%. But at the same time, you go and say, but what Assad's doing when he butchers 600,000 people for voicing their free speech, that's cool. Well, then you're not a real libertarian. You are 100% contemptibly disingenuous and suffer from the highest order of cognitive dissonance. You are a disgrace. You are a loser. You are an enemy of mine, and you must synthesize the contradictions of your view. My view is that most people are good people. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I feel that most people, when they have these contradictions pointed out to them in a genuine manner, assuming that they don't just say it's fake news or whatever, which is a usual danger that you run into these days because people don't want to be woken out of their cognitive dissonant lull. They like the status quo. They like their comfort zone. They like not being challenged on anything. But if we are in good faith having a discussion and you genuinely acknowledge these contradictions in your viewpoint, I believe that most people will go in the direction of becoming liberal hawks or neoconservatives, that they will agree that these values that we hold in the West should be universal. They might be socially conservative. They might be more socially conservative than me. They might be more socially liberal than me. They might believe in a higher tax rate than I do. They might believe in a lower tax rate than I do. We can have all those disagreements, right? But on the fundamentals of human rights, of human dignity, of democracy as being universal goods, I believe that most people will come around to my side about that. But a percentage of them will naturally become unapologetic fascists. I would like to see them admit it and wear their fascist freak flag high, right? I'd like to see them fly their fascist freak flag as high as they can, because then we can see who the real enemies of freedom are, right? And who the real dictator apologists are, not just the people who do it because they think it's woke or whatever, or because everybody in their friend circle does it and the only news they watch online does it. And they never really stopped to consider how it didn't make sense to be for abortion rights in America, but to support ultra-conservative patriarchies in Russia and Syria. They'll become liberal hawks, most of them will. Some of them will become fascists. Some of them will say, you know, we should be like Russia or we should be like Syria. But that's a minority. And this is a democracy, and in a democracy, the majority wins. And so I believe that the liberal hawks will win. I believe that the neoconservatives will win. Once the era of cringe subsides and the populist fad gets old and people get sick of it, they will want professional leadership. They will want morally integral leadership, and we'll be there to step in. So thank you for watching, YouTube.